You have good long arms, that's good.
Good afternoon. Today is Monday, December 13th, and this is the Administrative Committee regular meeting. I'm Brandy Sullivan, and I'm joined by Gina Trucio and Sandra Kelly. The first item on our agenda today is approval of the Administrative Committee November 8th minutes.
I move we approve.
I second.
They look good to me as well. Moving on to item number 2 is the portable collection De-Accession, and we have Megan Cherry from the Arts Department to present to us today.
Oh, no. So far. That's a good sound.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the projector.
Yep. Nope. All I have to do is feed the dog, so we're good.
That's same with me. So we're gonna talk fast. Okay. Thank you.
I felt like my whole day was function not available. Good job, Bill.
Function is not available. Is our clicker working? No. Maybe not.
Oh, the one over there.
That's trick.
It's the big
That's
button
right.
right there.
One more day when I need my village. Okay, thank you for the opportunity today. I've brought something that's related to the subject matter. So today I have the pleasure of bringing something sort of unique to you guys in that we've never actually used the De-Accession method for our portable collection or any other part of our public art collection. So just a quick review on what our portable collection is. This is actually the oldest and longest standing collection that the city of Moscow has. It started in the mid 80s. We currently have 94 individual pieces. These are artworks that sort of live in public spaces around city buildings, including in some staff offices. And it includes this duck that was on the matter of the duck that was donated in 2004. And it has a sort of sort of nested, if you will, in Gary's office since that time. And it's a piece that he's really fond of. And it really goes well with other pieces of his personal collection that he's brought in to enjoy in his office upstairs. And so as we're going along here, I thought it might be nice to look at some other pieces that are not in the City of Moscow collection, but that are really nice examples of how ducks have captured the sort of human imagination. This particular one is in the Smithsonian, but there's some really nice ducks along the way. So just a little history of this discussion. In October, the Arts Commission opened a conversation about whether to take the action of, or to recommend the action of de-accessioning the duck, to remove it from the collection, and to present it as a gift to Gary upon his retirement. When he retires in January. They did ask that we do some research about artist preferences, whether it was possible to acquire another duck, whether city staff gifts were common at retirement times. And with the research that we did in the intervening months, they did vote to recommend de-accession of the duck in their November meeting. This timeline shows us today, December 13th, here we are at committee, and depending on your recommendation, we'll hopefully present to council on the 3rd of January. The public art guidelines that were approved in 2021 do, in fact, provide a mechanism for de-accessioning artworks from the collection. This can be done for a number of reasons. In the case of something, if we had a piece in the permanent collection that was deteriorated in its in the state to the point where it couldn't be maintained or conserved, we might consider de-accessioning a piece for that reason. But these guidelines also give us the opportunity to de-accession for the purposes of gifting. And so this will probably be familiar to all of you because you saw these guidelines come through earlier this year. Importantly, the guideline, oops, whoa, I want to go back. How do I go back? The small button. Okay. All right. The one that has the back arrow. Okay. So one thing to note is that the Arts Commission is asked to provide reasoning for de-accession. And so they are recommending this de-accession and gifting of the duck. And their reasoning for this is the length of Gary's service to the city of Moscow. I think when he retires, will he be right at 30 years of service to the city? So that's a really unusually long tenure here. They also noted that he very much likes the duck and has sort of imprinted on it, sort of bonded with the duck because it's been in his office for so many years. And I think lastly, and most importantly, the Arts Commission noted that Gary has been steadfast in his support of the arts in Moscow, which is certainly when we come to the next piece, staff recommendation, that's really a huge piece of why we all in arts and culture feel that this is a really great action to recommend because he's been such a champion for the arts. So with all of that said, I would love to take questions about this.
Any stipulations, and I don't know if there need to be or not, but are there any stipulations that say 10 years from now, Gary and family decide to downsize and they're like, we're not going to bring the duck? Are they allowed to sell it, or do they have to give it back to the city? Or if he passes away and family's like, yeah, we don't really like the duck, or whatever piece in the future comes up, do we get it back?
That's one I didn't anticipate.
I guess the reason I'm asking, I'm not necessarily thinking about the duck, right? I'm thinking about down the line, I think this is a great idea.
Yes,
I love
yes.
the long-term idea
Yes.
of sharing art. But that said, I'm thinking of other pieces, right? If there are
Sure.
other things that go through down the line.
Yeah.
And maybe they're more, I don't want to say more valuable than the duck. I don't know how much the duck is worth, but
Mhm.
would it come back, or are they allowed to do whatever they want with that piece once it's given to them?
I think actually that would probably be a really good question for the city attorney. And whether we need, sorry, man. Whether we need an agreement that goes with the gifting or not is, I'm open to direction on that. One thing the Arts Commission did note is they're not anticipating this as a precedent.
Sure.
It's not to say everybody who retires. Oh, thank you. It's not to say that everybody who retires would receive a piece from the portable collection. This is just such a unique and special situation.
I guess I would just hate down the line, and I don't mean to go dark, right? But let's say someone's donated a piece and there really is some value to it, right? And maybe it is another person that serves 30 years, and great, it's a beautiful present to give. I'm all for that. But maybe that person dies right away and the family's like, I bet we could sell this for $50,000. Let's do it now and get rid of it. And then,
We don't ever give anything for them as money.
well, and that's why I'm asking the question.
Well, and actually, thank you for bringing up the question of value, because I had the really great pleasure of talking to Frank Warner. He is alive and well. He's in St. Mary's. He is still making duck decoys. His year is split between duck season and decoy season. There's a YouTube video that I highly recommend. He mentioned that his ducks there is a flat rate of $600 per duck. He is open to the idea of selling the city of Moscow another duck should we, according to, but the next year's budget process. In this case, I don't know if Mia has any advice based on value of the duck core.
Or I'm also looking at the future.
Future, yeah, as a precedent.
Mhm.
Yes.
So to answer your question, I believe the way our guidelines are written right now, if we get to the point where we feel that a piece of artwork no longer has a place in our collection, whether it the value has gone down because of some repair or damage to it, if we've in this situation where we feel that moving forward with de-accession of it and gifting it in this situation right now as it sits, we don't have any conditions in place. It's a gift is a gift, and the person receiving the gift can do whatever they want with that gift. We certainly can create guidelines, and in certain situations, if we want to place restrictions on a gift, we certainly could do that. But in this situation, the way that our policy and guidelines are written, we have not included that as a provision. And maybe if that's something we feel so importantly about, maybe we would not gift or remove a piece of art from our collection if we feel so strongly about what happens to it after it leaves our possession.
Seems fair.
I love the idea, especially given the bond between Reedner and the duck, but I do hesitate very strongly obligating his heirs to deal with this duck. I mean, to me, this feels a little bit like a gift with strings turns out not to be a gift after a while. And so I think that I would land on the side of letting this be a gift with no strings.
Sure, this one absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels
Yeah.
we got to let go of him at some point, and we need to just let Reedner go do what else he wants to do and not be obligated to the city for the rest of his life and his
So
children's
spread
lives.
your wings, so to say.
To
Spread
fly-
your
to
wings,
fly free,
little duck,
as it
and
were.
fly. Mhm.
No, that's great. I just wanted to bring it up because in the future it could come up at a different time, and at least
Yeah.
someone's thinking about it
I
as well.
suppose one thing that could be difficult, I understand you're thinking too, but then are we going to somehow police finding, wait, what happened to that piece of art that was gifted to this person
Yeah,
10 years
42.
ago?
Kind of.
Now
It's
that
worth like $1 million. You bet I want to go police
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
well, it sounds unlikely that we'll be having
Yeah,
any.
Maybe
but
there's an
it's-
Alf Dunn
$800,
piece out
that's
there that we gave away that might really be worth something now. I don't know. Just
yeah,
that's
maybe
all.
that's something to consider for
Future.
future. And for now, I do have to say that I've been the liaison for the Arts Commission, and I was surprised by how every angle and questionable thing that they thought of that might be an issue,
Yeah.
and many different things, the value of the duck, the ability to replace the duck, many different things. And Megan went and did all her research and came back with them with
Yeah.
all kinds of information. So I know that they were very thorough in considering this decision and their recommendation. So,
I'm all for it.
Me too.
okay. So we recommend De-Accession, which, thank you, I said De-Accession. I picked up on that pronunciation. And gifting. I feel, did you say it had to come to the full council?
Yeah,
on-
it's
right.
it's something, I mean, something
Agenda.
this serious really probably should go
Yeah.
to the regular.
Okay. Here we are.
Great.
Thanks. Next item on the agenda. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Megan. Classification and retention of public records resolution of our city attorney, Mia Bautista.
Thank you.
And Lori is also listed on the agenda, Lori Hopkins, city clerk.
So as you are likely aware, Idaho Code 50907 requires the city to have a records classification and retention resolution. The last one we did was in 2008. And after consulting with the city clerk and reviewing AIC's best practices, we felt update was necessary. And so what this proposed resolution does, it includes more items in each category than our 2008 resolution. And so if you take a look at the drafted resolution, so starting with permanent records, items 1 through 6 is what is required and is already receives that classification of permanent based on Idaho Code 50907. City council can designate other records as permanent, semi-permanent, and temporary. And so what you have under permanent records for numbers 7 through 13 are records that we identified, again, after consulting with the city clerk and looking at AIC's best practices. We included items 7 through 13 under permanent records. looking at semi-permanent records, again, under the Idaho Code, items 1 through 6 are what is required and has already received the classification as semi-permanent. And then we added, are recommending items 7 through 15 to also be included as semi-permanent records. And then for temporary records, if you look at items 1 through 3, again, that's by statute. And then items 4 through 14 are what we are recommending be added and included for temporary records. And, looking at the resolution, the purpose of identifying and classifying records, it pertains to the retention schedule. So permanent records are required to be maintained in perpetuity. Semi-permanent are required to be maintained for at least 5 years, and temporary records required to be maintained for 2 years. Certainly anything within those categories, semi-permanent and temporary, can be maintained for longer, retained for longer than that, but it has to be retained at least for that minimum period of time. And there are certain situations, certain type of records where we may not, they may not fit under permanent, but we know that they should at least be semi-permanent. But we know based on other regulations, whether it be federal or other state regulations, we may need to maintain those for 10 years. And so that's why as part of the destruction of records, that always goes through the city clerk, who then also then has those go through city attorney to review to make sure we're keeping within all the different regulations for retention.
How were those ones that were added being handled up until this time? Were we keeping everything forever or?
That depends on the department.
Okay. All right.
Most of the time, people would call me and I'd go through the best practices through Association of Idaho Cities and kind of work with them and determine what the length is and what they suggest.
And then the last section in the proposed resolution deals with transitory items. So there is no definition of transitory items, but what you have listed here in the transitory items are items that do not fall in any of the 3 previous categories. And, they're if we have them when a public record request comes through, then we would provide them. But these types of records, we are not required to maintain for a specific period of time. And I'm happy to stand for any questions.
I looked at this earlier and then now it dawned on me. Where does social media, that sort of thing, fall into any
That
of
would be
those?
a transitory item.
Transitory item? Okay.
Should it be added or is that not necessary?
It would be,
Would that fall under 11?
so
Yeah.
I guess it depends. If it's social media that's related to city business, that would be more of a temporary item. If it's social media that city staff, city council, if it's unrelated to city business, that would fit under transitory items.
So do you think it should be called out like email unrelated to city business, social media posts unrelated to city business? Should it be listed? I don't know. Whatever your legal opinion
We
is
could,
on
so
that,
the
it
Idaho
should
Code
be-
doesn't require us to list that under any of the records. I would prefer to keep that under transitory unless there's something about those social media posts where we have to maintain them because of any sort of litigation hold, or if they are clearly related to city business, then we would probably treat them more like a temporary record and hang on to those for 2 years.
Right. I agree with transitory, but it's not actually called out as a specific item under transitory, and
Mhm.
maybe that's not necessary. I mean, it's not listed anywhere. It does seem
don't
that
think it's
transitory is.
necessary.
And we certainly don't list every single record that the city has. We can't do that because it'd just be, there'd be too many.
Mhm.
So not every single document is listed in this resolution.
Okay.
I guess it would seem to be akin to a press release in many ways.
A press release is supposed to be kept for perpetuity.
It's listed as a temporary record underneath this.
Mm-hmm. Certain press releases,
Certain.
like if they're related to certain public hearings perhaps, but
Oh, yes.
other press releases,
Like-
like on.
Like
different
there's a
cities.
pop-
Yeah.
Snowing, shoveling your
Right.
sidewalks, or,
So,
Right.
Yeah.
so yeah, there's different levels of,
but a social media post would seem to be similar in nature to a press release. It's us
Right.
announcing an event activity of
I just think that there is the potential for someone to accidentally violate a code by deleting a city-related social media post
We
that
can,
is necessary in litigation or things like that. I just think that's a little unclear.
so if any of these items, even the transitory items, if they exist at the time when we have to submit a litigation hold, none of those items would be destroyed. They would all have to be retained, no matter where they fit in any of these categories. But we certainly can add social media posts that are related to city business under temporary, and we can include under transitory social media that's not related, similar to the email. We can include that in transitory.
Okay. I think that's good guidance to have because, you know, when there is that retroactive request for records,
Mhm.
if you've already deleted it, you've violated the code and not recognized it.
Sure. Yeah, we can
So,
add that.
yeah.
Great point.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions, discussion? So what do we think? The
I
action
feel like
is to
this is what we
recommend
have to do.
approval of the records
Yeah, I think we
classification schedule resolution.
We should approve it,
I
definitely.
think we approve, yes.
Yeah.
And I think
I think
that could go on
consent.
consent agenda.
Yeah.
Consent?
That'd be our recommendation.
Right.
All right.
Great.
Neil, you might be up again.
Yeah, I
Mia?
think there's a
I
couple
think
of
we
them.
have two more.
Right, okay. Next item is the public records request guidelines resolution.
So with this item, so Idaho Code 74-119 requires us to adopt guidelines that identify the general subject matter of all of our public records maintained by the city, and including the physical location of such records. The resolution also needs to include who our primary custodian is to receive the public record requests and the secondary. And so that's what this resolution takes care of. We have basically two types of public records. It's the type of records that are handled through the Moscow Police Department, and then we have all other city records. And so this guideline helps address those two types of requests. And the city clerk is a primary custodian for all the city related. And then we have a designated alternate in the event she's unable to take care of the original request. And so what this does, and it is pretty expansive, and the attachment lays out by department the types of records we have, the physical location of those, and then who the records administrator is for those records.
Any questions?
No, I was just fascinated by all that in a really
I
weird
was
way. It's
too.
like, holy cow.
It's a lot of,
Okay, recommend approval of the public records guidelines resolution, consent agenda.
can that go on
So-
consent?
Yes,
Okay.
Okay.
that'd be our recommendation.
All right. Next up is the Records Management Policies and Procedures Code Amendment. We're sticking with Mia and Lori up here.
And so when the city council passed this ordinance, it was in 2015, and I believe it was prior to the Public Records Act put in place under Title 74. And so what these ordinance recommendations do is it updates it based on the Idaho Public Records Act that's put in place, and also updates it to mirror the practices that we currently have and are required to follow based on Idaho code for processing public records. So that's what these changes address, and happy to stand for any questions.
I say we do it.
Yep,
Yep.
sounds like that makes sense to be consistent with what our state code is. So recommend adoption of the ordinance, and we'll go on.
Yep.
On regular agenda as an
regular
ordinance.
agenda. Oh, right.
On that one.
Ordinance, Okay,
Yep, regular.
okay, great. So we'll see that on the regular agenda on Monday. Okay,
And
thank
many
you.
thanks to Lori. She did a lot of work with all of those last three items.
She's running away from us right at the moment.
We're gonna get on camera as soon as you can.
Big time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on from records, agenda items to the Winterfest alcohol use request in the entertainment district. And we have Amanda Argona.
Good
Amanda.
afternoon. So the Moscow Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center is hosting its inaugural, it should say Moscow Winterfest, not just Winterfest, set for Saturday, January 22nd from noon to 4, taking place on Main Street between 3rd and 6th Streets. It also includes a portion of 5th Street to the alley. That's required for traffic control purposes. And it also includes the first bay of the Jackson Street parking lot. That was a learned lesson from Moscoberfest. And so the applicant has gotten all of their required numerous forms in, and that is included in the resolution as attachment B. But this is in the entertainment district. They have paid all their necessary fees, required fees. Right now, the alcohol use fee is the only one that's required. But without further ado, per Moscow City Code, we have a resolution to before you, and we recommend approval of the resolution allowing the temporary use of alcohol during Moscow Winterfest in the designated footprint during the duration of the event.
I only have one weird question.
Well, I hope I
And-
can answer it.
And if not, it's not a huge deal, but I was pondering this when it popped in my head last night. So January can be a surprising kind of month.
Yes.
Could be 80, could be 80 below. There could be sun, there could be ice. Have we thought about things like making sure it's not too icy on the streets? Is that a provision? I'm sure you're on that. How does
Yes.
that work?
So we actually experienced this last year when the farmers market had to potentially relocate off of Main Street. So I do have an answer. And that is my understanding. If there is more than 4 inches of snow, that could be an issue for this event. I believe I've discussed that with the applicant. This isn't first time knowledge of them hearing it. Okay, great. They're shaking their heads. And so my understanding, talking with Steve Schulte in the streets department, is that if it were more than 4 inches, there could be a delay in the event depending on when that snow is coming. Main Street is a priority, that sort of thing. So we'll certainly cross that bridge when we
Sure.
get there. As far as the de-icing, that's certainly something that we could work out with the streets department. We did that recently for Light Up the Season, where we had lovely festive snow during the event, and they did go ahead and run some de-icer. So
That's great. Because I love these things, but I'm also very klutzy.
Yeah.
And so
and the applicants are here
Yep.
if
for being here.
if you have any questions for them specifically. But
Yeah, maybe I'm not sure if it's a question for
Mhm.
you or for the applicants, but is there, you mentioned the bay in the back being sort of an upgrade from what was learned the first time.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that has changed in this
in the map,
resolution
yeah.
as compared to, before that was learned from the last time?
Yes, it was pointed out by the city attorney that we may want to look at the cup situation,
Mhm.
vessel. In the resolution, we did, I don't know if you folks caught it, but we did put in glass. So Moscoberfest had glass steins. I actually attended that event and did not hear a single glass break, but I did speak with the organizers at the event, and I believe there weren't that many, less than 10, potentially less than 5 that actually broke. And so this event will have glassware again, and that is something that we will probably be looking at to amend in the future with legal for the oh my gosh, entertainment district.
Mhm.
We'll probably look at fixing that, but it didn't seem to be an issue. Things were taken care of, and if it becomes an issue, we can always revamp it with
Okay.
legal. So
Tell me again tell me the first time what the first bay in the parking lot in Jackson is for.
yeah, so from Moscoberfest, what we learned, we had mapped out the event footprint. Part of that is to also place the no alcohol beyond this point signage. We did that right after the Friendship Square playground, not realizing that people need to
Oh.
have access to the bathrooms. So
Okay.
hindsight is 2020, and we learned we should include that first bay of the Jackson Street parking lot. So that no alcohol signage beyond this point would essentially be put further to Jackson Street. Plus, it would also, there would be a signage going towards the rest of the parking area. And then there will be additional porta potties as well to help sort of alleviate the Friendship Square bathroom and minimize lines.
Okay, I have a question. The businesses that are located within this footprint, people can still not take alcohol out of there into the event. Is that correct?
What they will need is a wristband in order to do that and have it be in the appropriate glassware. So theoretically speaking, if I am attending the event, I've purchased my tickets for Moscow Winterfest. I've gotten my wristband and my glassware. I can go into an establishment such as One World or Moscow Bagel Company with an empty cup. They can fill the cup and I can leave that establishment, but I cannot leave those establishments with a disposable empty vessel. This event in particular, it's really driven by the sales for the event. So,
Right. And this is something I hadn't thought of before. Thinking about farmers market and the food vendors, has the discussion about dogs ever come up? Is that something that eventually you might need to tackle? I mean, I don't think for this one. This is coming up very soon.
Yeah. That's a great question. So other city related events, Light Up the Season, Art Walk, Vandal Town, that specifically dogs are allowed at that. There's nothing that's prohibiting, and it's specifically at farmers market.
Mhm.
That would be something at the purview of council if they wanted to tackle that or have staff look into it. And that would add another layer of monitoring.
I mean, I think so far it's, as you said, we've had all these other events year after year, and it's never been an issue. Unlike with the farmers market, it had been something that was multiple
chronic
complaints and
issue,
issues
yeah.
about.
Mhm,
So I
mhm.
think if it's not an issue, we don't need to turn it
Yeah.
into
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Would be my
I'm
sentiment
with
on
that,
that.
yep.
So okay. Did anyone here want to say anything, or you're all thank you for being here? So great.
I think this sounds great. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm for it.
anything else? All right.
I am too.
So sounds like we are all recommending approval of the resolution within the event footprint for Winterfest for the duration of the event.
Yep.
And can that go on consent?
Okay.
Yeah.
Consent, okay?
Yeah, that's
All
good
right.
with me.
Great. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Get back to my initial page. Here we go. Okay. Then we just have reports. And Megan
It's like a bookend here.
Cherry is back to give us a arts education report.
Next time you should bring us treats.
Yeah, we really do need snacks.
We're on it.
See ya.
Oh, dang it.
Less than $50.
Thank you. So this, I know we're running a little late, so I'll try to be brief today, but wanted to give a report about some of the projects we've been working on with arts and culture education. Specifically, this has been an area that the Arts Commission has been really passionate about increasing programming in this area for a variety of reasons. It's definitely in their strategic plan. We'll look at one little section of that in a minute, but there are a lot of different initiatives that are going on in arts and culture education. And so today I wanted to talk about how those find their way into our activities program. There's a really exciting partnership with Arts Idaho, the Idaho Commission on the Arts, and then we've got some moments in the Box Gallery as well that we'll end with. So the Activities Toolbox program is something that came out of the, really was sort of an initiative that began during the early pandemic when the Arts Commission was craving connection with the public. We were not able to do regular programming. And so we all put our heads together and created this Activities Toolbox program. And it is art supplies and curriculum materials that are core standards aligned. These are really rigorous documents, but they're designed for families to take home. There are lessons that are designed specifically for 3 different age groups. So a family with kids from, ages 5 to 55 and older could enjoy these activities and get a sense of what how the materials work. These have been offered free of charge to the public, and they come in editions of 50, and then the printed materials are also available online for free. So this is a program that we're really excited about. The topics have been art outside. This makes sense. Early pandemic time, we had people going outside to enjoy painting outside, and that's what we see an example. This is a postcard that was sent back in by a participant. The second toolbox was puppet, very much related to storytelling and 3-dimensional making. Our most recent one was a cyanotype toolbox, and we're rolling into the 4th toolbox. Actually, we've just confirmed an educator who will be Rachel Eastman, who will be doing a blackout poetry toolbox for us. So we'll see what that curriculum looks like to launch in the spring. Also, last year in January, we applied for funds through the Idaho Commission on the Arts to support this program, and were awarded enough money to do 2 editions of the toolbox this year. So pretty excited about.
1,453. That's odd.
I am not sure what how they calculate. Well, I actually I have sat on that particular grant review panel, not in this last year, but it's about how the different organizations and their projects score, and I think there's a
okay.
set pot of money that then gets I think there's math involved
Okay.
in that.
All right.
But yeah, it's so in any case, it ends up being just about exactly the perfect amount for us with our 1-to-1 match to do 2 editions of the toolbox. And then also with Arts Idaho, Idaho Commission on the Arts, we are excited to be partnering with them to present a Business of Art class. That's going to happen right here in council chambers this next year. And it's really a wonderful program that they've been offering for years that helps artists increase the strength of their business skills. One thing that we've really focused on, we'll get to the strategic plan part in a minute, but the what of this is we'll have workshops here in council chambers on Saturdays and Sundays for a couple of weekends, and then participants would also have things that they're doing asynchronously also throughout the year. On a personal level, I do know several artist friends who've done this program and have really gotten a lot from it. So we're fortunate to be hosting that this year. It goes to different cities every single year. I think last year was in Twin Falls. And so it makes it accessible for artists who in Moscow, including those who are vendors at the farmers market, or people who are, showing in galleries to really step up their game with their business skills. And that's great.
Yeah.
This is something that wanted to take a minute to talk about the art strategic plan. This is that strategic plan was developed in 2019, and we specifically identified professional development as an issue that the MAC wanted to address, and that this boils down to is if artists have that kind of business strength and the ability to create sustainable careers in the arts right here in Moscow, everybody in Moscow benefits because we get to keep them here if they can develop good businesses here. So this actually does tick a box. Specifically in our strategic plan, we looked at this entrepreneur program. So this opportunity floated in through the transom, so we jumped right on it. Yeah. Okay, and then just to wrap up here, wanted to take a moment to say something about what's going on in the Box Gallery. The programming for the Box Gallery has been a really great outreach moment for the community. We, don't have a formal schedule for it, but it's been a really nice opportunity to check in with artists who maybe aren't showing in the Third Street Gallery, but would like to do something with the city. And it's hard not to be charmed by a little tiny mini space. So one quick facilities update: we did take the gallery out, the gallery cabinet out, and installed LED strip lighting, which really increases the value of the thing. The puck lights were not working, so we now have really nice LED strip lights. Our graphics for the Box Gallery are developing. We have a new administrative specialist in the arts department, and she's got a vision for the next step on Box Gallery graphics. So that's an excitement. And then finally, here's where the arts ed piece ties in. We really are looking at, as we roll into 2022 in the arts department, we're looking at how we can establish a lot of connectivity between our programs. So for Art Walk in January on the 20th, we will be featuring in the Box Gallery some arts education, the results of arts education in Moscow. So we've got a lot of things coming together in that space. Shanti Norman's middle school art students have done some things with us in the past, and so we're excited to see what they do with this as well. So with that, that's what's happening in arts ed in the arts department, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
For paying attention to the strategic plan and Xing a box there. That's huge. That is huge.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
That's good stuff. Thanks, Megan.
Great report.
It really is.
Thank you. I want to ask you about those LED lights after the meeting if you're still around.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And staff report.
No staff reports this afternoon.
Okay.
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 I'll just say that this is my last administrative committee meeting, at least for the next 4 years. Maybe I'll be back. Who knows? So anyways, it has been
Should've
a
brought
pleasure.
treats. It has been.
And yeah, I'll just have to watch on
Or you can come and have
You're
one.
YouTube.
always welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, really. Where's Megan's little dog?
All right. So we are adjourned.
Great.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brandy.